Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen and Squadron 42 stuff. Recently there was not only a Squadron 42 vertical slice, but also a version with director's commentary from Chris Roberts, Sean Tracy and Dave Haddock. There's actually quite a lot of information given about Squadron 42, a little bit about Star Citizen, and there were obviously bits missing from the vertical slice that they talk about as well, and I'll summarise all of that information here. The vertical slice wasn't edited in any way, it was a live playthrough, obviously pre-recorded, and it represents the game as it is currently in development. There's still a long way to go and lots of polish and optimization to do. The vertical slice was set around the second act of Squadron 42, so not during the early tutorial parts of the game. The player would have a sense of how to play by this point and how to do all the different mechanics and how to scan and use the map and all that sort of stuff, as well as have a good knowledge of the Idris. But characters you meet will ask you if you need help or tutorials, as they're aware some of their player base may have a lot of Persistent Universe, Arena Commander and Star Marine experience before Squadron 42, and they don't want to make you go through the basics if you don't want to. The IGN teaser showed off the player's first meeting with Mark Hamill's character Old Man aboard the Stanton Idris M-class frigate, and a lot of Squadron 42 for some players will be about getting Old Man's approval. Sleeping looks like it's the main transition for time in Squadron 42, though it does also have some cutscene type stuff as well. These cutscenes are not traditional cutscenes, you can literally cancel out of them and go back to your player's point of view while the rest of the cutscene is playing out, so you can get a more immersive point of view rather than a cinematic point of view if you wish during a cutscene. You don't have a vast inventory in the game either, you need to grab equipment and wear it as you need it. The game is very tactile, it's got the interaction system where you can literally pick up stuff and move stuff around. The NPCs on the Idris are driven by subsumption and they're getting on with various daily tasks. Every playthrough they've done of the vertical slice, there was different things happening. It's very early days with subsumption though. Eventually they want full schedules for all of the NPCs that will literally go around and finish work on the Idris and stuff. They have AI tech coming online that knows who you're talking to or looking at, or if you're like trying to interact with a certain thing, and the AI, the NPCs, will try not to block your path if possible. Rather than going through the shortest route, they will respect the player's action and try and go around them. They also have spoil tech that will detect if something that an NPC can look at, if there's a point of interest, a player, another NPC, and they'll react to it more readily, like glancing at it or saying something about it or pointing at something. That's in its early stages as well though, but basically the idea of it is to make AI look less robotic and more interactive with their surroundings. The characters, even the side ones, are of cinematic quality. A lot can interact with the player, some will be able to respond with the inner thought system, but they'll track you, they have to make eye contact with you, and immerse you in a more believable interactive scene. Also, your choices will affect them and your gameplay throughout the game. There are not any form of pre-rendered cinematics, although they do grab the camera from the player for some generated on-demand cinematic elements, but these are all in-game, and as I said earlier, you can literally return to your character's point of view during the cinematic to see it from your character's direct point of view. But it depends if you want like the more movie experience, if you want the sort of like the cameras that they've chosen the angles for some particular reason. These sequences and interactions are based on motion capture and actors' performances, and there are loads of wild lines and smaller interactions too. These can be tied to your reputation and how you've interacted with characters and how you're doing in the game as well. There is a lot of backstory to explore and get involved with if the player wants to, with the crew and optional missions and that sort of stuff as well. They aim to have at least 30 FPS on low spec machines and 60 on high end PCs with like the maximum settings. The render to texture and secondary viewpoint tech allows the characters to exist in locations that they are coming from, so they are able to project holograms by actually being in their office and then coming to a player and then talking to them there. So Old Man is calling you from his ship when he comes from ship to you and talks to you. The characters on comms are literally on the Idris or nearby ships performing those actions. And there's still a bit of work to do on that tech though as well, in that generally the facial animations, they're dialing that in to look as immersive, but also subtle in a lot of ways as well. They are continuing to improve the faces and animations, hair and eye convergence will improve, expected to get much, much better in the future. There is a shooting range and an armory on the Idris too. It's a huge floating level. The quartermaster on the Idris literally picks up items and shows them to the player. They might get that sort of interaction with shopkeepers in the future. And the Quartermaster there can add items to your loadout for various missions. There is also a reference to the original Terminator movie with the plasma rifle, but no Uzi 9mm, unfortunately. There's also a lot of Easter eggs in Squadron 42, apparently, some of which are going to be pretty well hidden. They have a cleaning tech for the guy that walks around and mops and stuff. So basically, NPCs can procedurally clean. They will look for puddles and messes and clean those things up. But characters in general will move around the ship, get ready for missions, and react to things. Their pick up and carry tech still needs a bit of work. It's a little bit janky when he's grabbing his helmet, and they're still messing around with the lighting, both literally in areas to make them look more cinematic, but also with the lighting tech. The deck crew can instruct your character when to turn your ship systems on and when to go. They use semaphore type stuff. The Shubin mining station is near the Coil, the remnants of Odin 1, which was a planet that when the star went nova, it kind of blew most of the planet up, but it's now like in its ring with dust and asteroids, and it's created this cool, huge volumetric cloud thing with storms and stuff going on, and got weird anomalies in there. Pirates and outlaws use it as a hideout area. They use this volumetric cloud tech and lighting for a lot of this Coil area, and it looks amazing. They keep on reiterating that it's not a skybox, and obviously with their planets and their procedural tech and everything like that, nothing is a skybox, and it's all visitable, and there's reasons for it being there. The UI and HUD stuff is going to get better too. It's going to get better looking and easier to navigate, more specifically. They spent a lot of 2017 getting features in and working in their first iterations or early iterations. In the future, it'll be a lot more polished and actually getting it functional and user-friendly as possible. There is a lot more NPC heads that they haven't processed yet as well, so you'll see a huge amount more variety in the future. They have over 100 scanned heads at the moment, and the A and B characters are ready in Squadron 42, mostly anyway. It's mainly the smaller parts and other NPCs that they're getting into the game now. In the vertical slice, there wasn't actually that much in the way of details of waypoints. In the full game, there's going to be choices of waypoints. They're going to signpost a lot better. There's going to be lots of different ways to do objectives. You're going to kind of know where you're going and be able to have the tools to go there. But in the vertical slice, they didn't really show that form of signposting. The character just kind of knew where to go. Now, this is partly because there's going to be a whole scanning mechanic in the game that didn't make the vertical slice, but almost did. So they wanted to use this to scan down ships, Trejo's Avenger, the Saver base entrances. When you first meet the slaver ships, they're spoofing their signals, and you're supposed to be able to scan them and go, that's strange. So there's the Odin 1A moon as well, Gainy. The scrap field round there was supposed to be scannable, and you could scan those slaver ships, as I said. They got those jacked IDs, and you're going to be able to scan in the FPS side while on foot as well to some extent with certain equipment. Your tactical visor will go, oh, there's an interesting thing over here, there's a power source over here, oh, these points look weak. And you're going to be able to use this to find points of interest and batteries and useful mission items, among other things. They've got some cool new GPU shield effects coming in with 3.1 alpha as well, and this is obviously go into Squadron 42 as well, but they conform to the shape of the shields, moving away from meshes, and impacts will spread over the area with a high-end looking effect. They are going to focus on the basics again with certain things, like getting combat in space and on ground feeling as good as possible, as polished as possible. Obviously, that's one of the core tenets of Star Citizen, to have that great combat. The amount of scrap and debris in the orbit around that moon was excessive, and there will be less later, but the atmosphere is going to be breathable on that moon, so they can kind of show off players' faces and things like that as well. There's going to be a lot of different types of gameplay available as well. Sleuthing, stealth, puzzles, and even RPG elements. It's all very sandbox, but it's still a bit on rails. There's still obviously that core single-player story that they're trying to convey. And there's going to be a lot of signposting and information gathered from scanning on missions, finding items to help guide the player to what their next goal is. They have a new subtle glass shader for helmets as well that they want to put in, as well as making the render to texture and comm windows more opaque so you can actually see them a bit better. They are aware of low frame rates, but they are happy with the tech that means that they can have real simulated planets, no loading screens. They're working on solutions for better performance, definitely, and they've got some of the best engineers in the industry, so they're confident they can get to the levels of performance that are not just appropriate, but good. Moving now on to the actual surface of the moon, Gainey. There was a bit of scrap satellite kind of crashing down nearby the slaver base, and an AI gun there will target and shoot those bits down as they come closer. And this is sort of also to indicate to the player that there is danger there. If they were flying over those AI guns, they would be shot. The player had a choice of where to land and assault the slaver base here. They chose the more stealthy back entrance and to fly under the radar, but they could have slogged it out at the front doors or attempted to attack the turrets to take them out. And you'll be using your journal and other info that you've gathered to plan how to do missions. Again, this one, you would have got a lot of info from Trejo's PDA when you found it in her ship earlier. Atmospheric flight is going to get some more work in the future too, and they plan for this planet, this moon in the demo, to have a bit more of a stormy atmosphere and stormy weather going on, so that should be pretty cool. The inner thought and interaction system should be simple and intuitive to use across control devices. There is going to be a tactical visor, as I said earlier, that will indicate weak points that you can like weld and other points of interest. This would, in the case of the demo, allow you to find a battery for the burnt out power box that enables you to get the lift back online if you'd gone through the back entrance. But the idea of it is marking things on your HUD and scanning and helping the player choose what to do and find solutions to problems. Also, some doors will have a way to open them, even if they're powered off. You can use like a manual hand pump to open those doors. There's going to be 3D visor maps available too, so you might have a mini map of the area and be able to detect enemies that are making noise nearby. The on-foot combat still requires work with the AI. They want full schedules and behaviours for the AI and NPCs that are moving around on ground, including panicking and running when in combat, because they don't want NPCs to constantly be fighting. If you've just taken out 20 of their mates, they're going to go, right, this guy's triple hard. There is over 32,000 animations in the game at the moment, but they are doing a lot of tweaking and dialing in with them now. The AI will react to where you are and communicate to other AI where you are in combat. There's going to be lots of options and paths to go down, lots of different solutions for the same problem. The player escaping into the vents in the demo is just one of these options. He decided to cut and run and go and find Trejo. At the very end, they did briefly show a mirror too, which obviously they are working on. It's basically the render to texture and secondary viewport deck, but like kind of projected back at you. And lastly, I'll give you a little bit more background on Trejo. She is an advocacy agent in charge of the Odin sector and is a badass, apparently. Every month we have a giveaway. For December, it's for an Orion mining vessel donated by our featured org Selfmade, an organisation looking at all types of gameplay with mainly a lawful neutral stance, kind of focusing on developing your character in-game as an individual and not being a dick to others. Links below if you're interested in joining them. They are active for 3.0. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that Orion is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and then comment on any of my Star Citizen content during the month. Do you have any questions about Alpha 3.0, about Squadron 42, about Star Citizen or Squadron 42's development in general? Chuck them in the comments below. A special thank you to my Patreon to allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, you can find the links to Patreon as well as everything else we've discussed down below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I'll see you in the verse.